Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Luna attacks grandmother after Lee's plan backfires. Regardless of what she has given up for Lee Finnegan, Luna Nozawa has no intention of complying with her request. Luna will stop at nothing to achieve her goals. Will Luna become malevolent and attack her grandma, who has taken every precaution to ensure her survival? Lee Finnegan modifies the regulations of Luna Nozawa. Luna's rules are altered by Lee. While she went to check out, Lee trusted Luna to remain in the apartment. Luna is aware that she will return to jail if she is discovered. Lee had previously threatened to make Luna a drill sergeant unless she changed her ways. Is Luna going to discover how harsh Lee can be with her? Sheila Sharp was informed by Luna that she was unable to cope with Lee's regulations. Since Luna will be with Will Spencer if she wants to be and Lee or no one else will stand in her way, she has no intention of obeying commands. Luna will not tolerate Lee's attempts to dictate to her. Luna Nozawa can't get enough of Will Spencer. For months, Luna has been fixated with Will. But Luna was aware of Will's girlfriend and their tight relationship. Given that she is aware that Will and Electra Forrester are not having sex, Luna has nothing against offering Will sex. Will had rejected Luna and made it clear that he had no interest in interacting with her. Luna made the decision to get Will intoxicated and have sex with him after attending his promotion party at Il Giardino. Luna even made it possible for Will to think she was Electra. Luna had just been in a fight over going out to see boys. If Lee finds out that Sheila is the one who informed Luna about the party, she will be incensed. Turning on her grandmother, Luna Nozawa. Because of how Luna handled Lee and Poppy Nozawa when she was younger, Luna has never really cared for Lee. How dare Lee think that she will ruin her life now just because she saved it? Once Lee tries to make things more difficult for herself, Luna might threaten her. Will Luna use violence in response to her threats? Let's pretend to when Sheila arrives, she discovers that Luna is missing and Lee has passed out in her flat. Maybe Luna hit her with a metal object in the house, knocking her out or perhaps giving her a concussion. Will Luna really injure her grandmother in order to escape? How will Finn act when he discovers that Luna attacked his mom? Will Finn see to it that Luna is imprisoned? Sheila is dealing with a lot of issues, and Finn deserves the truth. It looks like Sheila Carter's long-awaited breakthrough with Steffi Forrester Finnegan and John Finn Finnegan is doomed. Sheila's next downfall will be hiding Luna Nozawa's presence and her targeting of Will Spencer. Some individuals are unable to move out of their own way. Sheila falls into this group since, like her granddaughter, she is incapable of learning from her mistakes. When Sheila violently stopped Luna from shooting Steffi at the beach house earlier this summer, she was acting bravely. Steffi admired Brown's iconic character after she lost a second toe after Luna unintentionally shot her foot. Before the break, Steffi Forrester Finnegan expressed gratitude. After a crazy summer, Steffi wanted some time to herself. She departed Los Angeles, California, after telling Finn that she needed to take the kids on another vacation. The audience is aware that Wood was expecting her sixth child. The B&B singer was spending some time with her family away from the cast, as was customary. The result of that was that Steffi left with more peace of mind than she had in years. Knowing that her mother-in-law behaved in everyone's best interests, Steffi expressed her gratitude to Sheila with all sincerity. Luna Nozawa has resurrected. Following the aforementioned, however, fans discovered that Lee Nozawa had fabricated Luna's death while recuperating and tending to her granddaughter, who is also her niece. Sheila quickly learned the truth, in contrast to the period when Lee secretly kept Finn alive by pretending he had died. Later this year, Luna's existence will be revealed as a ticking secret. Steffi's faith in Sheila's sincerity will be undermined. The fact that his daughter is still alive is unknown to Finn. The ludicrous shakedown of Bill Spencer by his colleague to settle her ex-husband's outstanding gambling debt diverted his attention. When Sheila returns, Finn and Steffi will undoubtedly chastise her. Naturally, that is predicated on Sheila's involvement in Lee's deceit being revealed. However, what would the writing staff gain from preventing that? Finnegan, John Finn resuming our course. When Steffi is out of town, Finn is always off course. His caseload at University Hospital takes up most of his time away from the Cliff residence. Since Steffi isn't there, he isn't frequently seen at home, and Hayes Finnegan is rumored to still be with his mother. For whatever reason, Kelly Spencer made a comeback to the city and was spotted visiting Eric Forrester's mansion. When Finn initially discovers that Luna never died, Lee deceived him, and then exacerbated it by conspiring with Sheila, viewers are expecting to see his tumbling outburst. Despite their good intentions, Lee and Sheila have kept Finn in the dark since they know he would probably reveal what has transpired. Luna Nozawa and her grandmother, Lee Finnegan, shattered not with a bang, but with the silent, definitive click of a locking door. Lee, ever the strategist, had believed her revised rules, a gilded cage constructed from good intentions and stern warnings, were an unbreachable fortress. She had trusted, or perhaps desperately hoped, that the sheer weight of her sacrifice, of pulling Luna from the abyss of addiction and incarceration, would be chain enough to bind her granddaughter's self-destructive impulses. But as Luna stood alone in the oppressive silence of Lee's immaculate apartment, every clean line and orderly surface felt like a personal rebuke, a physical manifestation of the control she was expected to gratefully endure. Lee's plan, a meticulous blueprint for redemption built on structure and surveillance, was doomed from the outset because its fundamental calculus was flawed. It assumed Luna wanted to be saved, when all Luna truly wanted was the unbridled, euphoric oblivion she found in the orbit of Will Spencer, a man whose rejection had only fermented her obsession into a dangerous, single-minded fixation. This obsession was the acid that had eaten through the bonds of familial duty and gratitude, and now, with the key to her cage literally in her hand after picking the lock Lee foolishly believed was secure, Luna felt a thrilling, terrifying sense of liberation. She had told Sheila Sharp, her willing enabler and conduit to chaos, that she couldn't handle Lee's rules, but that was a profound understatement. She had no intention of even attempting to follow them, for they stood as the one insurmountable barrier between her and the object of her desire. Lee, the celebrated surgeon who had mended countless broken bodies, had failed to diagnose the festering sickness in Luna's soul, a rot of entitlement and addiction that mistook mercy for weakness and saw love as a negotiable currency. The specific provocation was a piece of information, a scrap of gossip delivered by Sheila with whispered excitement, Will's promotion party at Il Giardino. To Luna, it wasn't merely a social event, it was a summons, a cosmic aligning of opportunity and desire. Lee's explicit command to remain in the apartment was not a rule in Luna's mind, but an irrational obstruction, a spiteful attempt to deny her a happiness she felt was her due. The memory of Will's previous rejection, the humiliating clarity with which he had chosen Elector Forrester, even in a celibate relationship, over her, should have been a deterrent, but for Luna's twisted logic, it was merely a challenge to be overcome. He had refused her sober offer, so she would craft a scenario where his defenses were down, where the lines between fantasy and reality could be blurred. She would go to Il Giardino, she would get him gloriously, vulnerably drunk, and she would allow him, in his inebriated state, to believe the woman in his arms was the one he truly loved. It was a perfect, malicious scheme that required the complete dismantling of Lee's authority, and Luna embraced it with the fervor of a zealot. As she applied her makeup with meticulous care, each stroke of the brush was an act of defiance, a declaration of war against the grandmother who dared to believe that saving a life gave her the right to govern it. The confrontation, when it came, was not a meeting of two opposing forces, but a catastrophic collision between immutable will and unconditional love. Lee, returning home earlier than anticipated after a nagging intuition disrupted her evening, found Luna not contrite and waiting, but preened and poised for her illicit escape. The scene in the doorway was a tableau of their broken relationship, Lee, her face a mask of exhausted disappointment and burgeoning fury, blocking the exit, Luna, a vision of reckless youth and simmering rage, refusing to be contained. Lee's words were sharp, laced with the promise of drastic consequences, invoking the specter of a prison cell with the grim authority of a drill sergeant, just as she had warned. But Luna was beyond threats. The decades of resentment, for a childhood she perceived as cold, for the sternness she mistook for a lack of affection, for the very salvation she now spurned, boiled over into a torrent of venomous words. "You don't own me!" Luna shrieked, her voice cracking with hysterical fury. "You think because you saved me you own me? You just want to ruin my life because you never had one. Lee, struck by the injustice and the profound blindness of the accusation, stood her ground, her voice lowering into a dangerous, calm register that was more frightening than any shout. I am trying to keep you from ruining it yourself, you foolish girl. Everything I have done, everything, has been for you. It was this final declaration of love, this unwavering claim to sacrificial care, that acted as the spark in the powder keg of Luna's psyche. In that moment, Lee's love was not a shield but a weapon, not a gift but a chain. How dare she? How dare she use her sacrifice as a bludgeon? How dare she stand in the way of the only thing that made Luna feel alive? Reason evaporated, replaced by a red mist of pure, unadulterated rage. Luna's eyes darted around the room, landing not on the photographs of their family, but on a heavy, crystal paperweight that sat on Lee's desk, a solid, cold, brutal object. The argument reached its horrific crescendo not with words, but with action. As Lee moved to physically prevent her from leaving, Luna's hand closed around the paperweight. There was no pause, no moment of reconsideration. There was only the momentum of her rage. The arc of her arm was swift and terrible, a violent swing that connected with the side of Lee's head with a sickening, dull thud. The sound was not dramatic, but it was final. The force of the blow was not superhuman, but it was enough. Lee's eyes, wide with a shock so profound it had no time to register as pain, fluttered for a second, her body already slumping before her mind could process the betrayal. She collapsed to the floor, a heap of elegant linen and silent agony, a thin trickle of blood already darkening her silver hair as the crystal paperweight, now a weapon, rolled away across the polished floor, coming to rest as a silent, damning witness. Luna stood over her, breathing heavily, the adrenaline screaming in her veins. She looked from the still form of her grandmother to the open door, the pathway to will, to freedom, to her desired oblivion. There was no hesitation, no desperate check for a pulse, no cry for help. In that singular, monstrous act, Luna Nozawa had answered the question of whether she would turn evil. Gratitude was dead. Familial bond was dead. All that remained was the consumptive obsession that had hollowed her out. She stepped over her grandmother's body as if it were mere debris, an obstacle finally cleared. She did not run, she walked, with a chilling purpose, out into the night to pursue her fantasy, leaving the woman who had given everything for her lying alone and broken on the floor. The stage was now set for the devastating aftermath, for Sheila to discover the scene and be confronted with the horrifying fruit of her own gossip, for Finn to learn that the woman he had fought to help had brutally attacked the mother he adored, and for a reckoning that would surely see Luna's temporary freedom traded for a permanent cell, her destiny finally matching the darkness she had so willingly embraced. Lee's plan to save her had backfired catastrophically, not because it was poorly conceived, but because it was built for a person who no longer existed, if she ever had. The granddaughter she knew was gone, and in her place stood a stranger capable of an unspeakable violence, all for the fleeting chance to be wanted by a man who had already told her no. Sheila Carter so desperately craved and, against all odds, seemingly achieved with John Finn Finnegan and Steffi Forrester Finnegan is a house of cards built on a foundation of quicksand, destined for a spectacular and inevitable collapse. This long-awaited breakthrough, a moment of genuine connection and gratitude that felt ripped from a redemption arc Sheila has spent a lifetime unworthy of, is ultimately doomed, not by the machinations of an external enemy, but by the self-sabotaging, pathological impulses that are the very core of her being. Sheila, as history has proven time and again, is her own worst enemy, a woman constitutionally incapable of escaping her own destructive shadow. Her impending downfall will not be orchestrated by a rival like Steffi or Lee, but will be a direct result of her own choices, the catastrophic decision to conceal Luna Nozawa's miraculous existence and to actively participate in the cover-up of the very crime that brought them together, Luna's targeting of Will Spencer. This web of deceit, woven with the misguided thread of maternal protection, is Sheila's next great undoing, and at the center of the coming storm is Finn, a man whose innate goodness and unwavering belief in truth makes him the ultimate victim of this betrayal. Finn, more than anyone, deserves the unvarnished truth, for his integrity is the currency being spent by Sheila's lies, and his impending heartbreak is the tragic cost of her inability to change. The tragic irony of this situation is that it was born from a moment of genuine, uncharacteristic heroism. When Luna, addled by tainted mints and a fractured psyche, aimed a weapon at Steffi in the beach house, it was Sheila who intervened with a ferocity that was both shocking and, for a fleeting moment, pure. She was shot, losing a second toe in a brutal echo of her past sacrifices, and in that bloody, chaotic instant, she became something she had never truly been before, a protector of the Forrester Finnegan family. This act was not a calculated scheme, it was instinctual, a raw, maternal drive to defend her son and his family. The admiration and sincere gratitude that Steffi offered before her departure were real, a hard-earned reward for a deed that finally seemed to transcend Sheila's endless history of malice. Steffi left Los Angeles with a peace of mind she hadn't known in years, believing the monster was not just caged but transformed. This break, necessitated by Jacqueline McInnes Wood's real-life pregnancy, created the perfect vacuum, a quiet, hopeful space that Sheila, true to form, was destined to fill with her signature chaos. Steffi's sincere faith is the pedestal from which Sheila's fall will be most devastating. That fragile peace was shattered not by a new threat, but by the resurrection of an old one. The revelation that Dr. Lee Finnegan had, in a stunning act of déjà vu, faked Luna's death and was clandestinely nursing her back to health was a masterstroke of soap opera irony. Just as she had once hidden Finn's survival from Sheila, Lee now hid Luna's from everyone, creating a secret that was a ticking time bomb. Sheila's discovery of this truth presented her with a critical crossroads. The path of the woman she aspired to be, the grandmother Finn could be proud of, would have demanded immediate transparency, a difficult confession to her son that would have preserved the fragile trust they were building. But the old Sheila, the one governed by possession, manipulation, and a fundamental inability to trust anyone but herself, saw an opportunity for control. By agreeing to Lee's desperate scheme, Sheila became a co-conspirator. She traded the hard-won respect of her son for the illusion of power and a twisted sense of belonging, proving that like her granddaughter, who also operates in a world of poor choices and clouded judgment, Sheila is incapable of learning from her mistakes. She mistakes secrecy for loyalty and control for love, a fatal error that will define her next chapter. The weight of this secret is colossal, and its primary victim is Finn. Currently adrift without Steffi's anchoring presence, he is focused on his work at University Hospital, a dedicated healer oblivious to the sickness growing in his own family. He grieved for a daughter he never knew, a loss that was abstract yet profound, only to be surrounded by a lie of unimaginable scale. The coming revelation will be a catastrophic cascade. First, the glorious, life-affirming shock that Luna lives. Second, the bitter betrayal that Lee, the woman who raised him with an emphasis on ethics and honesty, looked him in the eye and lied. And finally, the soul-crushing realization that Sheila, his birth mother, whom he had just begun to tentatively trust, was a willing participant in this charade. Finn's world will be excoriated, his sense of reality shattered. He is a man who operates in facts, in diagnoses, in truth. The human body does not lie, and in his moral code, neither should people. This deception strikes at the heart of everything he believes in. The women he calls mother have conspired to treat him not as a son, but as a problem to be managed, a variable too unpredictable to be trusted with his own life. The profound disrespect of this act will likely wound him more deeply than any of Sheila's past, more overt, cruelties. Furthermore, the specific secret they are keeping is itself a poison pill. This isn't just about hiding a recovered relative, it is an active cover-up of a serious crime. Luna didn't simply fall ill, she was shot after attempting to murder a child, Will Spencer. By hiding her survival, Sheila and Lee are obstructing justice and protecting a perpetrator. When this truth erupts, it will implicate everyone involved. Bill Spencer, already entangled in his own blackmail plot with Poppy, will see this as an unforgivable conspiracy. The Spencer family's wrath will be immense. And for Steffi, upon her return, the implications are even more personal. Her belief in Sheila's sincerity will be not just broken, but shredded. She will see Sheila's heroism not as a turning point, but as the opening gambit in a new, even more twisted game. In Steffi's eyes, Sheila will have used the beach house incident as a form of currency to buy her way into their lives, only to betray them at the first opportunity. She will view Finn's trust as weakness that was exploited, and the gulf between husband and wife over the Sheila question will reopen, wider and more impassable than ever before. Sheila's lie doesn't just hurt Finn, it has the calculated precision of a weapon designed to splinter his marriage and isolate him once more, making him dependent on the very people who betrayed him. In the end, the narrative inevitability is absolute. The writing staff has no dramatic value in allowing this secret to remain hidden. Its explosive potential is the engine for the next year of story. The only question is the manner of its detonation. Will it be a remorseful Lee, burdened by her guilt, who confesses? Will a recovered Luna herself stumble back into the light, unaware she was ever supposed to be dead? Or will it be Sheila, in a moment of panicked self-preservation or twisted pride, who lets the truth slip, thus blaming everyone but herself for the ensuing disaster? Whatever the catalyst, the outcome is certain, a firestorm of betrayal, anger, and shattered trust. Finn deserves the truth because he is the moral center of this maelstrom, the one character whose love is unconditional but whose principles are non-negotiable. He offered Sheila a chance, a glimpse of a life beyond her notorious legacy, and she, like an addict returning to their vice, chose the familiar comfort of deception. Her multiple problems are not external, they are woven into her DNA. The problem of her insecurity, her bottomless need for control, and her tragic inability to believe that honesty could ever be enough. By choosing the lie, Sheila has proven that while she can sometimes act heroic, she can never be a hero. And in doing so, she is guaranteed that the truth, when it finally comes, will destroy every last vestige of the fragile peace she fought so violently, and so vainly, to protect.